Okay, welcome back to the homestead. Today we're going to be pickling jalapenos, and I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what has been done so far. So Debbie's not really sure how many jars she's going to have. So the first thing she did was she cut jalapenos. These are homegrown jalapenos in half, and then she seeded and veined them. We really like the jalapeno flavor, but not so much the heat. And then she cut up whole cloves of garlic, and one per jar is what she typically used. And then she washed the jars and lid, and then she mixed a pickling solution, which is 1/2 by quantity, 1/2 white vinegar and 1/2 water. So it all depends on how many jars she ends up getting as to if she needs to mix up some more or make some more jars. So we're going to get started if the roosters stay quiet long enough. So now she's going to take the jars and she's going to put them over in the canning pot. Okay, this is basically a water bath can that we're doing here. First, she's going to heat the jars up to a simmer.
And the jars do have water in them.
And the jars have water in them right now. And she's going to heat those up to a simmer. She's already sterilized everything, but we're going to heat them up to a simmer and then get it going. All right, in this pot here, which is on another burner, we've got the vinegar and water solution. So that's getting heated up. Once that gets heated up and the jars are done, then we can put the jalapenos in there and get her done. Okay, while everything's heating up, I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of other things that are getting put in there. So in each jar, you're going to put 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So this is Redmond's. This is what we're using. It's natural salt. There's nothing in it but salt and some other minerals that are natural. But you can also use pickling salt or pink salt. The problem with regular table salt or iodized salt is actually twofold. So both iodized and pickling, or iodized and table salt, contain an anti-caking additive to the salt that makes it makes the liquid turn cloudy in there, and it's not very appealing. I don't know that it would hurt you, but on the case of the iodized salt, it's got iodine in it, and you definitely don't want that. So stay away from regular table salt and stay away from iodized. The other thing you put in each jar, so that's 1/4 teaspoon in each jar of the salt. Then the other thing that you put in there is a pickle crisp. All right, so this is what it looks like. I'm going to zoom in as close as I can. Pickle crisp granules. So they look like this. And as you can see, they're little granules. So you put 1/8 teaspoon of the pickle crisp in each jar. All right, we're still waiting on the water to heat up, and we'll be back shortly. Okay, the jars are ready. The jars didn't have to boil again, but they needed to get nice and hot so that when you put that boiling vinegar water solution in there, that you don't have to worry about the jars cracking. So all she's doing here is just dumping that out, and then the next step is to, you do need to boil the water vinegar solution. That needs to be boiling. So that should be done in just a minute, and then we'll get back to it again. All right, so while we're waiting on that solution still, we're going to put 1/8 teaspoon of pickle crisp in each jar. That's 1/8. What that does, it helps the jalapenos stay nice and firm in the jar. And while I'm at it, I'll mention that you can, if you like your jalapenos a lot hotter, you can always leave the veins and the seeds in. These are mostly deveined and they're seeded. Once in a while a seed gets in there, doesn't really hurt anything. Just makes it a little bit zippier. We love the flavor, not necessarily the heat all the time. No, what she's doing now is putting a quarter of a teaspoon of, in this case, Redmond's real salt in there. But again, you can use pink salt. You can use pickling salt. That will give you the same or similar result. And then she's going to add 1 clove of garlic to each jar. Looks like we're only going to have about 8 jars.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
And she's putting the jalapenos in now. Yes, this year our garden, our peppers blew up. They did absolutely fantastic. We got jalapenos, we got cayenne. The bell peppers didn't do so hot, but all the other the hot peppers, they did fantastic. So that's what we're doing. We're doing what does fantastic. Our corn didn't do very well. Everybody out here says that they had problems with their corn this year as well. Our green beans are doing really well now. It's late summer. We're not far off from fall, maybe just a few weeks from fall. And the lima beans they're actually doing really well. We got tons of flowers, but not a ton of actual lima beans. Carrots and parsnips are doing excellent. Debbie actually pulled a carrot, and it was a legit regular sized carrot. That's pretty cool. Our asparagus is doing great, but there's a whole another year and a half to go on those before we can harvest that. And here in another week or two, we're going to be putting in the fall garden. So I'll show you what we're doing there too. So she's basically just stuffing those jalapenos in the jar, and then we're going to add the solution next. Okay, so what do we use this stuff for?
Well, what I do is once they're pickled and they're on the shelf for a couple of weeks, I can drain the liquid out, put them in a blender, puree them, and make my own enchilada sauce by adding tomato sauce and some other spices to it. We also just eat them like we eat pickles, like on a relish tray. And they're really good, like if you make a pot of chili, you cut them up and put them in the chili. I'm going to try this year actually pureeing them up and putting them in the chili. So, but if you're going to puree them up like that and make a sauce, just make sure you drain the vinegar. I didn't do that once, and it was so vinegary we couldn't even eat it. So, oh, and they're really, really good on a cheeseburger. Like if you take some of that smoked cheddar that we smoked and put that on a cheeseburger, and then use pickled jalapeno instead of pickles, it's delicious. Absolutely delicious. I waited until I was done. He just doesn't like you. Let me see if the water's ready.
Turns out we only had enough jalapenos for 6 jars, but that's okay. We take what we can get, you know. Looks like the vinegar water solution is ready. It needed to come to a boil. So we're going to line everything up and then get that poured. All right, we're going in for the pour. So what you're going to do here is you're going to fill it up to
a ½ inch.
About a ½ inch from the top. And then you're going to, Debbie's using this little thingamabob to make sure that the liquid all gets...
There's no bubbles.
No bubbles. You don't want any air bubbles.
And there's little markings on here. You're not going to be able to see them, but that tell you.
See the notches in the end of this? So you got notches right there. And each one of those looks like a quarter of an inch. So that can tell you how far you need to be away from the top. And then you can go back and pour the liquid to the top of that notch. In this case, you want to be ½ an inch, so that's 2 of those notches. And So it really has a dual purpose. You know, you use it to clear the bubbles out of there, and then once you do that, then you put, in this case, 1/2 inch on the notch, and make sure that the water comes up, the water vinegar solution comes up to that point. So you can eyeball it at first while you're clearing it, and then oh, had a jalapeno decided to pop up out of there. Getting the air bubbles out, and you just top it off to 1/2 inch, and voila. We do have a fly or two flying around out here, but I'll tell you what, when you're doing water bath canning out here, this type of thing, this is the place to be. It's very pleasant today. It's in the upper 70s, low 80s. We've had some terrible humidity around here, but lately, the last 2 days, it started to come down quite a bit. So we haven't had nearly the humidity we've had prior to that. Okay, so she's wiping the edges of the lids. This is a common practice. It should be done on all of them with a clean cloth. You can use a paper towel. Sometimes Debbie does use a paper towel, but a nice clean cloth will also work just fine.
You just want to make sure there's no like salt granules stuck to the top. That would prevent the jar from sealing. And they used to say that you had to simmer your lids, but you don't have to anymore. Just have to make sure they're really clean. And I've tried using other lids. Ball. I have least failures with the ball. And then I'm just gonna hand tighten the rings on.
But they're not real tight though.
No. And the best thing I can recommend for anyone who's never canned before is to buy a ball book.
This is this particular book is the Complete Book of Home Preserving, and it's a ball book edited by Judy Kingery and Lauren Devine, and this is Debbie's go-to for canning of anything she's not familiar with or anything she hasn't done in a long time, and it's made our stuff turn out really well.
Yeah, this book too, they have two of them. This is the Complete Book of Home Preserving, and then they also, I think, have like the Complete Book of Canning. This actually does have like dehydration recipes and things like that in it also.
Awesome. Okay, now she's putting them in the water. This is the canning process itself, and
Then they have to be covered with water.
they have to be covered. You
Lids.
can see there's like I'm guessing about 1 inch of water on top, and that's going to be good. I'm hoping that the sunlight isn't absolutely blowing y'all away on this. It's very bright out here. And then you
Once it comes to a boil, these are only gonna boil for 10 minutes. And then after the 10 minutes are done, you cut the heat off, and then you want to let them sit there for about 10 more minutes in the water. That helps to prevent siphoning, like where the stuff won't leak out underneath the lid. So you can see it's starting to boil now, but I'll wait till it comes to a full rolling boil to start my time.
Okay, so as a bonus today, Debbie decided since she already had some banana peppers, she cut those up, sliced them up. Now we leave the seeds and all that in there, and they're a little zippy. But it's the same recipe for the jalapenos. So
Except I don't put garlic in these.
she doesn't put garlic in them. Some people do, but she does not adding the clove of garlic to these. But it's other than that, it's the same recipe: the 1/8 of a teaspoon of pickle crisp and the 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And again, we're using Redmond's real salt. Just stay away from the iodized, stay away from the table salt. And then she had 4 jars left over, so she decided to go ahead and knock this out too. All right, it's been right on 10 minutes. It was a hard boil. Debbie just turned the flame off. So now we're going to let these rest for 10 minutes. And then we're going to pull the jars out, and in all likelihood, they'll seal just fine. Okay, they've been resting for 10 minutes. So they're coming out. And they're going to rest over here for a little while.
And they have to go, well, they've been sitting out 24 hours. And they make sure they sealed. And sometimes you can hear them seal. They make a little ping noise. And then you want to remove the bands and check the seals. And if they don't seal, you can put it in the refrigerator, but you know, you'll have to use it sooner than later.
I'm not sure if you can see it here on this one, but right next to this water, right where my finger is pointing, there's a little bump. And it's on all the jars. And that will ping when it seals. It sounds like almost sounds like glass cracking, believe it or not. But it will seal. And now she's just putting the banana peppers in there to do those, and that will wrap things up after this. In case you didn't hear when she was facing away from the mic, need to let these sit out on the counter for about 24 hours. And they should, at that point, ping. It looks like that one might have pinged.
Yeah.
And it looks like that one
And
pinged.
sometimes they ping when they're, that one too, they ping when they're still in the water bath canner.
All right. Well, that concludes today's elementary lesson in water bath canning. A couple things about water bath canning. You can water bath can a lot of things, but they should be acidic. You don't want to can. You don't typically want to can water bath can some of the more inert things like green beans and corn and things like that. That should be done with a pressure canner. But you can do what? Jams, jellies, tomatoes, peppers.
But even with tomatoes, you have to add lemon juice to make them, because they're borderline.
Okay, so if you didn't hear that, if you're going to do tomatoes, you need to add some lemon juice so it'll increase the acidity, because tomatoes are a little borderline on being able to water bath can. So, all right, well, that's it for today. One just popped. That's it for today, and here we are at Variety Homestead in our outdoor kitchen with our camp chef, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something, and believe me, this is stuff that you can do yourself.